basic measure. Most businesses, or many, do many people you know the return on investment of the business that they're in? Just quick, rough show of hands, couple, 3, 4, 5. Okay. You know, I don't know how you calculate it. There's a number of ways you can do that. I just keep it very simple. What I'm really working with people on is what's our profit, what's our operating cash flow? Because many businesses have gone broke, they've been making an accounting profit. And the real reason they've gone broke is they've run out of cash. Does that make sense? Just think a couple of nods. You know, you've got every annual report, there's wonderful statements in there about accounting profit. You pull through the operating cash flow and that tells you the real story. Most businesses that go under don't go under because they were making no accounting profit or an accounting loss. They went under because they ran out of cash. So the real nut of all of this is make sure that you understand what's the ratio of your operating cash flow, the cash it generates, to what your net assets are. When I work with some small businesses, they get really surprised because I explain to them, you're actually entitled to have a commercially competitive salary and you're actually entitled to get a return on the capital on top of that. It's not a buy-a-job activity. So if you sold everything up and went to live on a beach, the amount of money you walked away with is basically the value of your net assets. So what's the ratio of your operating cash flow for the year or the month or whatever period over the amount of money you've got tied up? So Debbie at the front's from the NAB. She'll understand all about a return on investment. So the bank lends you $1 million for a house, they want to get interest at whatever rate it is, and they've got their operating expenses, but they'll get a return on that cash. The money you lend to your business or you have capitalised up in your business is basically the same thing. You should be getting a commercial return on top of that. So operating cash flow to net assets. So if I've got that ratio, let's say that ratio is negative, so I've got negative operating cash flow. I'm in an absolute fight for my life. I'm dodging the phone calls from the people I owe money, I'm chasing the customers who owe me money, and I'm waiting for that phone call, depending on the size of the company, from either your bank saying, no thanks, we've had enough, or from, who's the big administrator generally calls in? Quarter, Mentor, various ones saying, oh, they've turned up one morning and there's people there opening the door, 8 o'clock in the morning and everyone's standing around outside. You're in an absolute fight for your life. And if you're the owner in this case, the biggest thing that's on your mind is, okay, if it all goes completely to custard, how can I walk away from this and still keep my house? Now, for an employee, it's a little bit different, but the same result. Most employees in businesses are struggling, they know something's up. The good ones will be looking for their escape route. The ones who remain, they're all going, is my job safe, is my job safe, is my job safe, is my job safe. And instead of going, what can I do to help the business? What can I do to look after a customer today? They're so preoccupied with, is my job safe, is my job safe? Because if I lose my job, I can't pay my mortgage, and not that Debbie would ever do this, but the bank will come and take my house. This is an absolute killing zone down here. Just moving up a little bit. If I'm at 0 to 2% here, yep, I'm a little bit better off. I've got a tiny amount of wriggle room, but I'm still having to get blood from a stone, get the last drop from the tap. I'm really there and trying to survive the week. And often that last week of the month, I've paid out wages for 3 weeks, other clients haven't paid me till then. That last week of the month, I'm right on the edge of my overdraft if I've got one. My big focus here is I want to pay wages. Because as soon as I can't pay wages, then pretty much the game's over. People will be definitely leaving. They won't turn up. They'll start moving on, and then it's gone. Yeah. There's plenty of businesses out there who are in this area. This is a hell zone. If you're in this area, you can work out pretty quickly roughly where you are on this. You want to get out of here real quick because life's not a lot of fun down here. Start-up businesses, yeah, you might be in here for a while. That's what you've done as a start-up. You know, you've hopefully budgeted and planned for that. Why you've got to get some growth in. And here is an absolute death zone. Moving up a bit. I've got 2 to 5%. So I'm still pretty tight. But you know, it looks like I've probably got some clients. I've got a viable business model by the sound of it. Here it's all about I've got to grow. I absolutely need to be out there in the marketplace growing. I need to be going and doing whatever I've got to do to sell, deliver, repeat. Sell, deliver, repeat. I've probably got some investment in assets or equipment or whatever it might be, and I've almost certainly got underutilisation of capacity and labour and all our other fixed overheads. So to get out there and sell more cookies. Now here, I'm still very vulnerable. All through here, any sort of downturn, lose a major client, any sort of general industry downturn that I can't respond to, and I'm going to tip back and go under pretty quick. Yeah, pre-GFC, three out of 4 manufacturing companies in Australia made money. 1 out of 4 didn't. Australian Bureau of Stats released an update for the 2010-2011 period about 2 or 3 months ago. 3 out of 4 Australian companies in manufacturing made money. 1 out of 4 didn't. It didn't change. Margins are a little bit different. Employment's actually recovered in manufacturing. There's more people employed today than there was a year ago. That's out of some AIG interpretation of some Australian Bureau of Stats and material. But still, there's always going to be some people who are down here. At 5 to 15%, here, I'm probably going to ride out a bit of a downturn. But here I'm really in a phase where I want to be harvesting. I want to make sure I'm paying down my debt and I'm putting some money away. Because there's things I want to do. You actually are allowed to have a life. You actually are allowed to build an outside asset base, whatever your investments are. And you do want to put some money away for a rainy day. So it's about how do I consolidate? Start getting a return for all the work as I've built the business through here or turned it around from wherever it was. Put some money away for a rainy day. Ooh, next one. At 15 to 30, for the first time, from my perspective here, I actually get what it's all about, which is I then actually truly start to have some choice. Do I want to expand the business and open up more branches? Do I want to expand the product lineup? Do I want to put the time into really locking the systems down and sell it to someone else and cash out? Do I want to back off and spend 2 days a week at golf and 3 days a week coming in working? Whatever I want to do. Do I want to go buy the private jet and fly off to the Bahamas? Whatever it is. But for the first time, I'm starting to get choice. Here is about the minimum acceptable return that I suggest to you should be looking at. And here's why. Poor Debbie really picked the wrong spot to sit, being from the bank. So, if I go around all 4 of the major banks, and I haven't updated for the last couple of months, but I don't think it's changed that much. Depending on what the terms are for a term deposit and the amounts, they will offer me between, say, 4.5% and 5.5% return on investment. Round about right? Don't know. Yep. It's around that. And for all that, to get 4.5%, 5.5%, I can go sit on the beach and drink pina coladas every day. Very little stress, plenty of leisure time. I know we all love manufacturing. It's just so much fun. But we don't have to do it for nothing. It's actually okay to go and make some money. So here, if you're only here, if you're somewhere here, you're actually better off with that money being in the bank. So if you are down here, get out of there. For all the work and the stress and the pressure and the risk, frankly, it is risk. There's a lot of risk in running a business. You actually should be looking at a much higher rate of return than what the bank's going to give you. Risk return. If you're going to put all the hours in, you're going to take the chances, you're going to buy that piece of equipment, you're going to spend 20 grand putting a bid together or 100 grand putting a bid together for a deal, whatever it might be, you actually should be expecting to get a much higher rate of return than what the bank's going to give you. Now, if you're up here in this 15-30% range and you've been doing that for a while, most of the people I work with are starting to really think about, well, what else do I want to do with my life? And what do I want to leave behind? So it becomes about two things. What's the legacy? So a few clients of mine, they say, okay, well, what I really want to be able to do is take profits out of the business to go do some of my charitable work. And literally some of them have built orphanages. That's what they do. They want us to take some time out to go and do some of that work. They want to go and start a new venture. One person I know, he's basically handed the business over to his sons, and he started from scratch. He had so much fun the first time around, he's doing something separate. He's going back to here. A completely new industry sector he identified. He's just playing there. Different factory just down the road from the existing business. Because he's hitting the phones every day to create another business from scratch because it's fun for him. Now, legacy, what you leave behind, is where a lot of people turn to. As we get older, we all start thinking about that. The continuation of the species in the ultimate form. Inside that, though, a real focus in your business is about regeneration. So for any of you who've got a good, solid, functioning management team that you're really happy with and saying, great, yet the hard stuff's done, we're going really well, I'd ask you to look around and think through, okay, over the next 3 years, half of these key people are going to leave for whatever reason. Same with your operators. People go, oh, that won't happen to us. Well, think back 3 years ago, how many of these key people were here? Oh, yeah, they knew. And the risk you have is if you've got only 2 or 3 people that can do a certain job, and you've given that job to them and you're now free to do all your stuff that you want to do, here's what happens. One falls out of love and moves to Queensland. One falls in love and moves to Queensland. The third one gets headhunted by a mining company and the fourth one's sick today. And suddenly you're back on the tools. So in all this activity up here, even though you're going brilliantly, there's some key business activity in here about how you keep regenerating, fresh blood coming in, cross-skilling, and making sure you've got that nailed in a systematic fashion so you don't lose the core intellectual property of the business. Otherwise, the only core intellectual property left is you, and you're back in it. So even if you're making money, you're still trapped in the business. So have a look through your business and go back and have a look at what is my return on investment. So the ratio of operating cash flow for the period over my net assets. And you better be doing at least better than what the bank will give you for all of that, or you're doing it for love. Now, that's what we're really after. Primary measure in all this is here. Anyone ever work for big corporations? Still do? Right. One of the risks inside big corporations, particularly when they break their measurements down, is operationally we get hammered on a cost, and each functional department gets measured on cost. And it's only at an extremely high level, if at all, that the conversation about cash flow or return on investment comes up. And so the problem that a lot of businesses have is they're not looking at the right measures to get alignment of behaviour and focused business outcomes. So when I was at Holden, it was cost per car set. That was great. There was cost of projects. But the real issue was, how how are we going to actually give more value to a customer so they'll buy more cars? Because in the case of what happens is if the market starts to decline, instead of figuring out, well, how do we have to sell more, it's how do we cut more? And cut more. And any business that's got any sort of substantial fixed asset base, you ultimately can't cost cut your way to success. You can cost cut your way to a profit for a short term, but you can't cost cut your way to growth. You'll work out how you're going to create more value. But that's what we were after. So a prime overall measurement would be that.